Welcome to BLU Talks.
What if the biggest storm of your life wasn't outside, but it was actually inside your brain? My brother and I were the luckiest kids alive. We were born in Australia and our parents had a sports store. I mean, every winter we skied, every summer we windsurfed and sailed, and every few months we got into the latest craze. BMX, rollerblades, skateboards. I mean, if they had wheels or wind, we were into it. We were wild, we were competitive, and we were always racing until the storm hit. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jennie Milton, but they call me AdrenaJen, like adrenaline Jennie, because I've been into extreme sports all my life, and I've been chasing storms, always looking for the biggest waves, the deepest snow, and the perfect wind to do my favorite sport of snow kiting. Yes, I'm a professional kite flyer, not just for sport, but I teach other people to do it as well. I was also the Australian women's kite surfing champion at the age of 48. And here's a little secret that I tell you, most extreme sports people know, that when you get dressed in the morning, when you put on your wetsuit, when you put on your ski gear, it's like putting on a superhero costume. And my kite was like my cape that allowed me to fly. Now, everything changed one day when my brother came home from school. He had a sore leg. And my dad said, brush it off. He's been at footy. Footy, that's Aussie for football. And my mum had some mother's intuition. For some reason, she said, I'm going to take him down to the hospital and get an x-ray. The next morning, he came home and we heard the news, something that no kid or family should ever hear. He had bone cancer. The cancer had eaten through his femur, and the doctors told us his best chance of survival, which was only a few %, was chemotherapy and amputation. Now, he was only 9 and I was 11. It was a tough time for our family. Things weren't the same. It was tough. It was really tough. But my mum and dad decided they needed to get him back into sport, and they knew some ski instructors that specialised in teaching people with disabilities. And so only about 2 weeks later, my brother was learning to ski on one leg. I mean, he was still on chemo, completely bald, but it was so awesome to see my brother smiling and having fun doing something again. Now, it didn't take long until we decided we needed to race. So of course I took off one ski. We were racing I was racing on one leg with him. We were rollerblading together and he was using crutches like push poles to push him along. It didn't take long until he was actually beating me again and I had to go back to 2 legs. My dad built him a peg leg out of PVC pipe and a rubber disc on the bottom. So he had a waterproof leg that he could learn to windsurf. I mean, it took him a while. He fell in a lot, but he had determination. And it was amazing, amazing to watch. We used to call it the MacGyver mindset. I mean, all you had to do was figure it out. You had to adapt the gear, adapt the plan, and ultimately adapt your mindset to believe that anything is possible. Now, my brother went on to actually become the world's best skier on one leg. He's got multiple gold medals in the Paralympics. He's pretty famous back home in Australia. He's even in the Australian Hall of Fame for sporting and also as a legend. He's got world records and multiple Guinness World Records. In fact, he actually is the fastest man ever to run a marathon on crutches. Many people ask, well, why doesn't he wear an artificial leg? But he was 9 years old when they amputated it, and his stump is very small. It's not strong enough to move an artificial leg, so he does everything on one leg. Now, my brother taught me resilience, and that resilience would carry over in so many areas of my life, especially when I had my own dream come true. I was up as a backcountry guide in Australia, taking people out on adventures. And then I met SJ, and SJ was a skier just like me. She was the same age, same passion, but SJ had gone in for an operation to fix a nerve in her neck. And when she woke up in ICU, she was a quadriplegic. She'd lost the use of her arms and her legs. Now, she was grieving her life, she was grieving her identity, and you know what? She was wondering whether or if she could still be a good mum. Luckily, SJ was introduced to the sport of sit skiing. Now, a sit ski is kind of like a pod that you sit in, like a wheelchair, but instead of having wheels, it had one ski underneath, right? And my best friend Paul was certified to drive people in sit skis, and it didn't take long for them to team up. Paul's a bit of a speed demon, and so you'd see them going down the mountain. She'd be going faster, faster, and using her body weight to move side to side to put pressure on that ski edge to carve beautiful turns. Now, I met them for lunch one day, and of course, I was talking about heli skiing in Alaska, and she looked at me with a sparkle in her eye that turned to a tear. She said, "I used to dream of going heli skiing in Alaska." And I looked back at her and I said, well, you still can. When the going gets tough, the adaptable get going. My MacGyver mindset kicked back in. We just had to figure it out. Okay, so she's going to need to rent an RV with a toy hauler. That's a ramp at the back, so she could drive a wheelchair up and inside, and she could stay in that RV. She needed her care team. We needed to figure out the logistics of how to put a sit ski in the basket of a helicopter, and how was she going to get out of the helicopter and into the sit ski. It took 2 years and a lot of logistics, but we figured it out. And you know what? SJ went heli skiing in Alaska. Better yet, she went with her 10-year-old son. Now that's a super mum, and I got to watch a dream come true. This adaptive mindset carried over when my own storm started brewing. I was getting headaches, and those headaches were getting really bad. I kept pushing the doctors. Something's wrong, I need more diagnostics. I had multiple scans, and finally I was told the news. I had not one, not two, but 3 brain aneurysms. I was grateful that they'd found them before they ruptured. One in the back of my neck was 19 millimeters and close to rupture. I didn't even know what a brain aneurysm was when they told me. Do you guys know what it is? I was sad to hear Rob, who spoke earlier today, mention that he'd lost his wife to a brain aneurysm. And I felt like I could possibly lose my life too. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I was in fight. I was angry with the situation. I was in flight. I wanted to run away so bad, but I knew that surgery was the only thing that was going to save my life. And I was in freeze, lying on the bathroom floor in a puddle of my own tears. I was grieving my life. I was grieving my dreams. I mean, could I still be AdrenaJen if I was this scared and I didn't get back to my life of extreme sports? What if I have a stroke? What if I need full-time care? What if I die? And then I remembered what I tell my students to help them overcome courage. Rather than focusing on the what ifs, focus on the facts. And the facts are, I be brave, I be strong, I be lucky, and I be loved. I be grateful. I am the storm. And I chanted that over and over and over again until I fell asleep when the anesthesia kicked in. I woke up the next day in ICU, so grateful to be alive. I counted to 10. Okay, I think my brain's working. My husband came over and gave me a kiss on the cheek. I had tears on my face, I had tubes in my arms, and he handed me something really special. He handed me a kite, the world's smallest kite. That kite was made out of tissue paper and toothpicks. And I flew my kite in ICU above my head. And it made me smile. And it brought a spark of joy that made me realize I'm still here. I still have purpose. And I remembered some Tony Robbins training. He said once, is there more knowledge in a graveyard or a library? And I realized I didn't want to leave my knowledge, take it to the graveyard. I needed to share my stories. I'd been looking for stories of skiers that had gotten back to their sport after having the same surgery as me. And you know what? I couldn't find one. I eventually did a blog of a guy that lived in Colorado that got to ski his favorite mountain. And that was all I needed, a story of hope. I made a decision in that hospital bed that day. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to speak on stages. I'm going to share my story. And I'm going to be a coach, not just of skiing and kites, but of courage. I wanted to help people overcome their fears. I felt like if I've survived this and overcome my fears, then I can teach other people too as well. And you know what? I have a new superhero outfit. It's not a wetsuit. It's not my ski gear. It's a pink power suit. Woo! And speaking on the stage gives me that same adrenaline rush as skiing big mountains. I'm still AdrenaJen. I've just changed the terrain. So I'd like to leave a message with you today. Be bold enough to dream, and brave enough to fly, and fearless enough to face your storm. You are not your fear. You are not your diagnosis. You are the storm. Thank you very much. My name's Jennie Milton.